What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and we have an absolute ludicrous one for you guys tonight in the $10.5 million in stakes races for Kentucky Downs Saturday. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. If you could, and if you enjoy the show, please go down below the video player, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it because, one, not only is it completely free to do, it's also the best way to help out our channel as it pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring more horse players to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. You see this, our normal schedule scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now. Every single week, Wednesday, we have right here with Bettin N Boozin at 8 p.m. Eastern with myself, Patrick, and a new recurring person, of course, with Charlie being in law school now. Thursday is Picks and Ponies at 8 p.m. Eastern with Howard, Pete, and Paul. This week they are covering Saratoga. And Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson Pacific Horseplayers. And they are covering a fantastic card this week with the Pacific Classic Late Pick 5. Again, lots to look forward to this week, guys. So hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you never miss a podcast that we post here to the HHH Racing Podcast. Of course, every single podcast we post to YouTube is also available in audio form. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor is where you can find those. So if you're more of an audio listener, please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. We have TikTok and Instagram at Bettin N Boozin Podcast. If you're into more short form content, I usually post my plays of the day every single weekend that I play. And we have a bunch of other stuff going on there. So please follow us if that interests you at Bettin N Boozin Podcast again. And our power picks, guys, have been doing super well for the month of August. I think we're well over $3 in the ROI. But since February of 2021, we're still well in the profit with $2.10 all time for 913 total picks, guys. They pay for themselves, as unbiased as I can say it. You will not find a more informational, but also a more affordable tip sheet on the platform. It's only $4.99 a weekend, $21.60 every month, which is how Patreon bills it, which is where it's done. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description box below, and you can look at previous editions of those power picks before you buy them. Or if you just want to learn more about our podcast, you can go to hhhracingpodcast.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I see a bunch of people in the chat already. If you guys are new here or recurring and you haven't commented in the live chat at all, please go in the bottom right hand side of the screen here on YouTube, and you can type in the live chat whether you have opinions on these races. Is these races, again, overflowing with entries, also overflowing with purses for that matter. So if you have any opinions or have any questions, please put it in the live chat. We do read every single one. Guys, let's bring on my co-hosts, and then we will get right into the handicapping. Of course, one of my normal co-hosts from the East Coast of New Jersey wearing a disgusting college shirt, my friend Patrick Kunsel. And of course, filling in now as Charlie has probably more important things to do, Pat, but you guys have seen him, you know him, you love him, the man himself, Noah Maher, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. He leaves and he comes back full circle because, Pat, not too many people can stay away from us.
I'm getting PTSD here. You know, I have a nice shirt on, repping Notre Dame for this weekend, and then this guy shows up on my screen. I guess all is well in this world, but whatever.
Just a good old Wednesday night, Pat.
Yeah, exactly.
Never a better Wednesday night for it, guys. So, like I said, Noah, I appreciate you hopping in here. You will, and like I said, the floor is always open to you. You're always welcome on here. As again, you started your whole thing on the HHH Racing Podcast on Bettin N Boozin before you moved over. Kind of taking my talents to South Beach-ish with LeBron James. Not that you're LeBron James necessarily, but yeah, close of the HHH Racing Podcast. But either way, no, like I said, happy to have you on. And again, recurring for, the near future, unless Charlie, has a free week.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to having these weekly seminars with you guys. Hopefully Charlie is busy with law school for as long as possible, so I can have my Wednesday nights booked up and covering some good cards. I know this one that we're going to be talking about, this is quite the doozy, I'm sure.
Let's be honest, guys. Charlie's studying the tape on Texas D-line right now. We all know it.
Yeah, right. No kidding. He's running the real numbers for Ohio State, of course. The college football season does start this weekend. Yeah, Ohio State's got a big doozy off the bat with, I believe, Arch Manning starting that game too. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for once. I'm going to watch my one of two Ohio State games that I'll watch on the entire Saturday. But guys, thanks again for popping in here. Really appreciate it. Of course, going to the chat. Katie, of course, with here. So done with Toga. We're betting and not losing with monster purses. Yeah, like I said, closing week at Saratoga, though. Bob Segura, my friend, going to Saratoga Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to finish off the season. That'll be an absolute great time, Bob. I'm sure. Good luck as you head out there. And I'll get to where we are heading soon in a second here. Marco Lou, no, I will not take the post-time lag because I don't suffer from post-drag disease, unlike 90% of tracks that we watch on a daily basis. But anyway, I appreciate it, guys. It was a little late hitting the start button, but we do have fun. Our Stephanie, your comment, I can't put that one up there, but I did. That gave me a good giggle, so I do appreciate that one. Terry Frank, of course, is here. Bob Segura, I agree with you. Jackson just missed having an outstanding pick sheet on Sunday with the Belmont power picks. Of course, the guy below me would have done them. Of course, you would have had a fantastic day, but there's a ton of good racing coming up, guys, and we all know how Kentucky Downs can be, but really for Kentucky Downs, we do need to crack a can of Nectar of the Gods because it might help us, because we all know the type of crap that can happen out in Franklin, Kentucky. But guys, $10.5 million is just absolute insanity. It's almost like Breeders' Cup in what, August and September, basically, with all these purses. But when you know where the money goes, the good horses go, and definitely the good jockeys go, guys. Starting in race number 7. Again, we're going to talk about all stakes in here, talking about all the $10.5 million. They do have a late pick 5. However, it includes one of the maiden races in race number 12. Thought it'd be more fun to talk about the 5 stakes races they have in the card. And again, this starts off the $1 pick 6. So still can help you guys handicap a sequence in here. Again, starts in race number 7, what we're going to talk about today. And it's the Mountain Dew Bowling Green Cup Invitational Stakes. I love that Mountain Dew sponsors this. $1 million on the line for the first race we're going to talk about. And it starts off with a 2-mile and a 16th race on the turf, proper Euro type, for 3-year-olds and up. Draws a field of 8, with the morning line favorite being the number 7, a horse that definitely on myself, and I think Charlie was on this horse as well in the Belmont Gold Cup. The number 7, Flatten the Curve. Tim Hammer Hansen rides 8-5 on the morning line. The recurring horse in this type of division in the States, number 4, Limited Liability, is your second choice. Frankie hops back aboard for Shug McGahee at 2-1 on the morning line. Your third choice is another recurring horse in the 1.5-mile division, Tawny Port. Joel Rosario, Miguel Clement trains 9-2 on the morning line. And I'm putting up our picks right now for the Bowling Green Gold Cup. And we all have different horses in here, which actually is a big surprise considering he said there's 2 pretty heavy favorites in here. However, Noah is going a little bit off the beaten path, so I'm going to let Noah go first. I'm going with the morning line favorite, Flatten the Curve. Pat's going with the second choice, Limited Liability. Noah, starting it off, Golden Eye, the number 1, 10-1. But of course, you're getting good connections in here for 10-1, Jose Ortiz and Kenny McPeak.
Yeah, I don't know what you thought, Pat. I thought there was a good chance that this favorite could be like even money, 6-5, and I don't know if I really want any part of that. I know the connections brought him over initially to run in that Belmont Gold Cup, and obviously things didn't work out, but they were coming over to try to get that paid for berth for the Melbourne Cup, and that was kind of the reason that they came over. So they came over in June, and then they shipped back in July, and then they're coming down to the end of August. I know that's maybe not the biggest hole to poke in a pretty solid favorite, but that's just a lot of traveling in a short amount of time. And at that price, I'm looking elsewhere. And the one I ended up landing on is Goldeneye. He ran a pretty good race back here at Kentucky Downs around this time last year, almost about a year ago, from the day that they're going to be running this on Saturday. And that was kind of the time where he started to get really good. That was kind of his career best. I know he ran his career best in the race at Keeneland when he won. Then he was up close in the Hollywood Turf Cup, but he had put back-to-back 88s. And at that point, that was kind of the best that I thought we would maybe see from him. But he's come back this year. He's actually come back even better. You know, the Chorleywood was kind of a weirdly run race. It was a pretty good race. I mean, Rebel Red came back and ran second to El Cordobas. Highway Robber came back and won. And then since then, he's really done nothing wrong. You know, he came back and won by a neck at Colonial in a pretty good field with a couple next out winners. And then last time, I thought was pretty visually impressive. He went by Wolfie's Dynaghost, who is a pretty decent horse and a pretty good distance turf router, I would say. And he made him look pretty not so good. So I'm just going in a different direction. I know, Kyle, you mentioned before the show, we were talking a little bit, and the 7 is actually nominated for one of the races next weekend.
Yep.
So if he doesn't actually end up running, I know the price will drop quite a bit. I'd like the 7 to run because I will be placing a pretty decent win bet, hoping I get somewhere around that 10-1.
Yeah, no, I mean, Golden Eye, I have him in second. Pat, you have him in third. So we're all thinking on the same wavelength. I agree with you. No, I think he's been, even coming back at 6 this year, he's been as good as he's ever been. And the thing that I like about him is he was able to almost like completely turn around his tactics.
Yeah.
He was only a go horse mainly. And then now all of a sudden this year, he's done very well rating off the pace, Pat. And if he does that, there's actually a decent amount of speed in this race. Granted, you know, it's 2 miles and a 16th. Pace scenarios, you could argue, don't mean as much in a race like this. It's kind of just whoever outlasts that type of distance, which is actually why I like the number 7 flatten the curve so much. Noah, I'll get to your point. I do completely agree with you price-wise on that. But Golden Eye definitely has a shot, Pat.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I honestly thought watching that race at Saratoga, that was very impressive. And time form-wise, that's one of the best in the field here. So I know if you get 10-1, that'd be fantastic. Because this horse is definitely coming in to his own in here. But you know, I don't know, guys. Limited liability, the 4. You know how they say you got to zig and zag in this game. I'm gonna zag. This horse has done absolutely, just as disappointed so many in last 3 or 4 starts, and now, comes in here to a track that he does like. Obviously winning so impressively. Back on September 11th last year. Beating the Gray Wizard. And they're winning by 8 lengths. But I just, kind of drew away. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure that track was pretty speed favoring from what I remember. But I just think this is, where this horse wants to be. And I'm going to take one last shot with limited liability in here. I don't know. I'm hoping Frankie just goes to the lead and, doesn't pull back on this horse as much as he did or do that weird move, on the backside to get to the lead. Just let this horse do what it wants. It's a talented horse. I don't know what you guys think of limited liability if you kind of are just done with them. But I'm going to try one more time.
I mean, Pat, I'll tell you what, this exact race last year was what put this horse really on the map for this type of distance. And no, I completely can see why you don't want this horse. It's just Frankie's given some really weird rides on this horse, man. If he just lets this horse run, I feel like he's got a really good shot to finish somewhere. I'm not sure this horse is completely done yet, but with a 2-1 with this type of horse who maybe his best is behind him, but I'm not even sure it is. It's just a little too short for me to take a shot on a horse that you're banking on trying to have, a good run, a good ride, stuff like that. I would much rather take, and if the prices completely shape out differently, then this changes my win bet opinion, which I'll talk about later. I love this horse at 8-5, honestly, even though, especially if limited liabilities 2-1 versus this horse being 8-5, I want every single bit of flatten the curve. I actually really wanted him in the Belmont Gold Cup. Of course, they didn't run on the turf, so I can basically just completely scratch that one out. Then they shipped him back to Hamburg, where he ran a month after the Belmont Gold Cup, ended up winning, like I said, not a very prestigious race out in Germany. However, still over that 2-mile going, he ran lights out at almost 2-5, 1-5. So now coming back in here, 2 mile and 16th, if there's one horse that can get every single bit of the distance, that really will have a pace to run into, in theory, it's the number 7 flatten the curve. My only concern is that price, Noah, because again, if he does drop below 8-5, completely negates my win bet, because in a race with a lot of unknowns, basically 8-5 would be as low as I want on him.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about the 7, but I wanted to talk about little limited liability for just a sec.
Go for it.
I think if you're approaching this race from a handicapping standpoint, you kind of have to decide whether you want him now or you want him never. I'm kind of leaning towards the never camp, and I see all the reasons why you could, back him one more time, Pat, and I completely respect the opinion. Those rides that he got in, what was it, the race at Gulfstream and then the Elkhorn, those were just, there were a lot of not so nice words said after those 2 rides. And I would be willing to bet him back, but last time he was just so bad. I mean, he was chasing a Pletcher runner. I believe it was Major Dude, who got the lead in that UN, and really got a good trip in there. And Major Dude stuck around for quite a while. I know Vote No almost nabbed him. Kyle, he would have loved that, to get Vote No a graded stakes place, and that would have got a little more money in your wallet. But he was chasing him the whole way and really didn't hang around very well at a short price. So I think that's the approach you have to take. And if you're right about the prices, Kyle, 8-5 on one and 2-1 on the other, then I probably would pick the 7 on top, because I think that's a much better bet.
Yeah. And the thing that I didn't like about limited liability in that UN, Noah, was Vote No was really the only horse that came from anywhere in the back to finish late in that race, which is why I like that race for him. However, on the flip side of that, limited liability was the only horse near the pace that didn't finish anywhere near the top 3. And again, only 4.25 back, but again, at 2-1, that's just a little low for me to trust this horse in this race. And again, Frankie, if there's any track that Frankie can turn it around on, this Kentucky Downs circuit really fits that type of European riding style that he's known for. So if he wins, would I be completely surprised? No, absolutely not. But I'm not willing to put my money on him at 2-1. Again, we talked about flatten the curve. I don't need to add anything on it. I just think he's going to sit a really nice middle trip. And if there's one horse I'm definitely not concerned about the distance with, it's the number 7 flatten the curve, and would love 8-5 on that horse. Last horse we'll talk about, then we'll move on. Noah, is the horse you have in third. The third choice on the board, the number 3, Tawny Port. Miguel Clement sends this horse again. And he didn't really run bad in the UN. It was just kind of flat, really. And this is just a horse that I thought was completely done, then brought back the number a little bit. But again, another one hard to trust. Granted, you're getting a little bit more of a middling price, but still, again, a little hard to trust.
I think you're spot on. And his UN was a little bit weird. I mean, I know some people in the chat are kind of mentioning the off the Frankie angle is the one you want. I think the off the Giroux angle is the one that's worked out pretty well over the last month or 2. Goes to Rosario, who's Clement's main man at this point. And like I said, his UN wasn't bad. He was kind of mid-pack, maybe towards the rear, and then got brought all the way back to last, and then swung wide, actually came with a decent run and closed well. So I was like you, Kyle. I thought he was kind of tailing off, and then he came back with that effort. But you're spot on. He's just super hard to trust. So he'd be strictly underneath for me. He's
really always been that way, right? Just with Tawny Port, he always runs a good race, but he's never at least win bettable for me because he's really that inconsistent. I mean, he hasn't won a race since, God, I'll go back right now. Let's just go back together, everybody. Let's go to Tawny Port here. When's the last time he won a race? It's right here in the John's Call at Saratoga, August 2023. So again, that should basically tell everything you need to know. 9-2 would be too short of a price for me to take a shot on a horse that hasn't won in 3 years. But again, could he win? Sure. I would be a little surprised if Tawny Port won more than limited liability. However, again, could he win? Absolutely. Not going to get my money, though. In the race number 7, the Belmont Gold Cup again. Bowling Green Gold Cup. I'm going 7-1-4. Pat's going 4-7-1. Noah's going 1-7-3. Wanted to shout out a couple of people in the chat before we move on. Sylvain, my friend, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciated. Jeffrey Wilson, my friend. Jeffrey, have fun out at Kentucky Downs. I saw you tweeted me earlier. Have fun out there this weekend. I will actually be going there next weekend, most likely with the man below myself right now, as well as it's big news coming out of the Crownsway camp. Vote No was invited to run in the Kentucky Turf Cup in next week. $2.5 million going a mile and a half out at Kentucky Downs, where Vote No actually broke his maiden, was out there. We high aspirations. We think he holds well with the best. And I actually think we might have another horse going in on Thursday. I don't want to spoil anything in case that actually, it doesn't happen or anything like that. But Vote No was invited and is in the nominations for the Kentucky Turf Cup, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. So if you're going to be out at Kentucky Downs, drop a comment or DM me on Twitter at APRoscoeK, and I would love to meet you guys there as well. I'll be at next week as well. Our Stephanie, my friend, I would love to meet you. Absolutely. We'll be out there in the tents again. You could feel free to DM me on Twitter and we can definitely work something out. And like I said, Jeffrey, good luck and have fun out there this weekend. Guys, let's move on to race number 8, which is the second race we'll be talking about. It's the Never Say Die Ladies Turf Sprint Stakes, a grade 2 for $2 million, going 6.5 out there. Fillies and Mares, 3-year-old. I feel like we're just going to laugh, especially when we get to that Nashville Derby, which is just unbelievable. Full field of 12, which you'll see a lot of out at Kentucky Downs. Again, money talks, but very heavy morning line favorite in the number 6 AG Bullet. Luis Saez, Richard Baltus, 7-5 on the morning line. Your second choice is the Wesley Ward trainee, the number 11 Kehoe Beach. Irad hops aboard at 7-2, and your third choice to the inside, going to number 2 Zeitlos. Junior Alvarado hops aboard. Steve Asmussen trains 6-1 on the morning line. Switching over to our picks right now. Patrick, very based, my friend, but favorite wise, we're going both with AG Bullet. Noah, you are going with the second choice in here, the number 11 Kehoe Beach. So favorite heavy for us on the top end. However, I can see a bunch of different prices underneath for us, at least for me and Pat for sure. But Noah, you like Kehoe Beach. Look, after how Kehoe Beach ran last time out at Kentucky Downs, I completely understand why you like this horse. I think it's going to be a little bit different of a pace scenario. However, again, I love to find horses that have run over this really weird circuit before and have done it very well, and Kehoe Beach definitely fits that profile.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the general rule here, right? I mean, everyone talks about how if a horse doesn't run well, they go, oh, they didn't love the hills and valleys, as our good buddy Paul Halloran likes to put it here. And then if they run well, I think you got to give them credit for it. So she gets back here. She was not very good in that Coniston Cup at Woodbine last time, and they cut her back a little bit, which I thought was kind of a good idea. And you're just looking at the page, she lost at 3-5 and wasn't really all that involved late, but they were moving pretty good. They went 46 flat for that 7 furlongs over a good surface, which typically doesn't play that fast. I know Jackson would agree if he was on here with us, just because he plays stuff up there. I think he actually got the winner that day, so maybe I shouldn't be talking so much shit. But I thought maybe Ward would give her a little bit of a break because she had been running against some really good companies. She was in the Jenny Wiley. We saw a couple of grade 1 winners out of there. The Just a Game over that tricky surface. She couldn't quite get the job done, and then she was obviously 3-5. But I thought they maybe give her a break. But they come right back to a course that she's done well over before. I think the 6.5 is going to help her. And then the question I wanted to pose to you guys and why you don't have her, is it just because the 9's in the race, or are there other things that you don't like about her?
I don't know about you, Pat. I'll let you talk first about it mainly. I'm just going to show the time form. I just think there's a lot of pace in here, Noah. And if there's a lot of pace, the time form has her in 4th, which I don't know if I agree with that. I think I'll talk about why I like AG Bullet in a second. But with the 8 and the 9 in the race, the 8 is a horse I can't see because we're so zoomed in on time form. Pat, I just didn't really like the pace scenario in here, and she's given it up a lot lately. And I do like the cutback for her to the 6.5 at Kentucky Downs, where she actually won at 7. But again, that was in a little bit slower pace. And last fall, that Kentucky Downs surface was really playing to speed that first week. So just a lot of combinations for a horse that's going to be a little bit lower of price.
Yeah, I think that obviously the price is one thing. And like you said, the pace, I think the post from the outside too, having to go, I know outside draws sometimes aren't the best there. So I don't know. I kind of was just a combination of 3 things. Those 3 were the major ones. But I do understand. I mean, you felt like, especially in the Jenny Wiley, Kehoe Beach, she was kind of the wise guy horse in there, being that middling price of like 4-1, 5-1, with Schwazi and Excellent Truth. So obviously, a big shot, talented. I do think, if this horse is 7-2, that would be pretty good for you. in this spot.
I'll tell you what, she stuffed me in a locker once. She can absolutely do it again. If it's Kentucky Downs, I'll probably just yell at the track rather than yell at Kehoe Beach. But no, I completely understand why you have the horse on top. Pat, AG Bullet is a horse I've been so against so many times.
Yeah.
And I've been right and I've been so wrong. This is a horse, man, that last time out, I thought was ultra impressive for the sole fact that she actually showed that she could rate, like in a race that's not the Breeders' Cup. Obviously, in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, she actually rated very well. But last time out, she sat a length off. Granted, that was at 5.5. This is now at 6.5. But she showed a little bit different side of her. And if there's going to be the speed of Kehoe Beach and the other two horses that I mentioned before, if she sits fourth in this race and gets first run on a lot of horses behind, I really, really like her in this spot for once.
Yeah, for sure. Her Jiper was very impressive. And I was against her that day. Two back, the unbridled Sydney she got stonewalled in that race.
Yeah.
That was tough. And then, I watched, the race last year that she ran in this race. She won with ease. So I don't know. I'd love to hear our West Coast correspondent kind of give us the rundown as to why, maybe it's just the odds, but I'd love to hear, what his opinion is on her, because obviously, I think she's just way the horse to beat here.
Yeah, no, we're watching the Jiper here now, and I mean, like you said, Kyle, she showed a little bit of a new dimension. I know she kind of came off of it in the turf sprint last year, but I think that was kind of the nature of Cogburn backing up a little bit and horses getting to him late. But this race, there was really nothing wrong with it. The only problem I have is once Think Big didn't run, wasn't she kind of 3 to 5? I mean, isn't she supposed to beat that field? I don't really good of a grade 1 field that was outside of Think Big. And to your point, Pat, obviously she had quite the trouble in the unbridled Sydney, but I'm not sure she was really winning that day either. So I know people out there have kind of put her on a pedestal, and she's like, oh, she's one of the best turf sprinters in the country right now. I have my reservations. And with those reservations, I'm certainly not going to bet her at 7 to 5. So I went in another direction. But the one reason that I'm not completely tossing her is exactly what you mentioned, Pat. She ran a 106 here in this race last year at Kentucky Downs. I can't get rid of that. So I've got her in second.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way. And the thing is that, you hate to have the second choice and a horse that's going to be very heavily favored in one. But yeah, it's very hard to shake her in here. And I do agree with that point, Noah, that you brought up that, last time since Think Big didn't run his race, you'd imagine that she would be next one up. And obviously she got a very nice trip in there, but I just don't see a way she doesn't get a good trip in here. And if she's run that well on the Kentucky Downs surface before in this race last year, I'd be willing to bet her again. But everyone knows how much I love the turf sprint variety of races. So don't necessarily take my word as gospel in this type of configuration. But last horse we'll talk about, Ed Burke brought up, thinks Zeitlos is going to be rolling late. And I'll tell you what, Noah, this is a horse I've been a fan of on the dirt. Never really on the turf, ran the Caress 2 years in a row, and both times ran very well. And last time especially well. This is going to be a little bit of a stretch out for her in this race. However, she's been running 6 and 7 on the dirt. She was a 6.5, 7 furlong specialist almost for a while on the dirt. So the fact that she can run back to 6.5 here, and if she can take to the turf at Kentucky Downs, there's no reason why she can't run well in here.
Yeah, and I've got the 10-4. I think you guys are pretty much nailed the head here, because I thought those two ran very, very similar races in the Caress. I know Zeitlos was second, Time to Dazzle was third. I thought they were pretty similar in general, and if you like one over the other, I'm not going to fault you at that. I just thought Zeitlos had maybe a better chance to show some upside, because she's only been on the turf 3 times. She's got 2 seconds. And funny enough, I was looking at stats. Mark Casse is not very good at Kentucky Downs. I think he's 6 for 99 over the last 5 years. So maybe not for this sequence in specific, but just races going forward. He doesn't do super well. And obviously he's kind of been on a roll. He got that big milestone over the summer, and obviously his barn hits at a very good clip because he runs all over the country and even in Canada as well. So very good barn for Mark Casse, at least at this point in his career. But I just thought that stat was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would love to pull it up if DRF would let me, but
DRF.
either way, I'll take your word for it. I completely believe you. But yeah, I thought they were very similar, Pat, in this race. But I feel like Time to Dazzle, maybe, yeah, I agree that just maybe has a little more upside than Zeitlos does. The paired buyer top angle could be one as well. Obviously, our good friend Matt Bernier loves that type of angle to take another step forward. And this is going to be fourth off of for this year and paired up second and third off that layoff. I think she could be primed just to run a really nice race in here, even if Mark Cassidy doesn't usually run well here.
Yeah, and I bet her on top in the Caress, trying to beat Futures now.
I think I did too, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she didn't have the perfect of trips, but it's a turf sprint, right? So I'm gonna, I can nitpick that, but I don't know why I'd get off of her in here to not have her in my top 3. So that's why I think she's definitely worth a gamble at 8-1.
Don't you guys want to talk about Dance Macabre? I mean, she's 15.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I completely forgot. How do I forget about a horse that I've had a lot of time getting to know, Dance Macabre? I'm sorry, that's a host fail. Look at that. See, he goes and hosts his own show, and now he's
good
calling
that we
me
have
out.
a backup bullpen host.
Yeah.
To keep you in line.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Ozzy wants the get rid of the big fat guy and go to the small skinny guy. Anyone that's a White Sox fan knows that reference, and I swear to God that's actually a reference to he wants one of these, the big guy, tall guy. That's what he wants. Dance Macabre, Pat, I'm glad you have this horse in there somewhere. I have this horse in second. She's been a very interesting horse throughout her entire career. She's ran at sprints, she's ran at miles, she's done it all and done it all very, very well. 13 for 15 in the money, finally $1 million winner. Of course, this is a horse that used to be trained by Kelsey Danner, which is how I know this horse so well. This is MBS Stables' probably favorite horse that they've had. I'm surprised. I'm interested. I actually don't know why they made the switch to Clements. Obviously, Miguel Clement, Christophe Clement as a trainer is definitely nothing to shy away from, especially with how Miguel started off his career. But this is another one, Pat, that's going to be rolling late. And if you're getting 15-1 on this horse, who has run very well over the Kentucky Downs track before, I want every bit of this horse underneath in my exactas and tries.
Yeah, and her race at Woodbine, that the field might have been all right, not the greatest, but she showed something in there. She had a tough trip, and I don't know if I could get 15-1 on her. And there's been other spots where I have to get half that price. So she likes Kentucky Downs, been in the money 2 times out of 3. I don't see why she doesn't fit in here. It does need to improve obviously a little bit, but should be rolling late.
Yeah, she ran really. I mean, this race last year, she did run pretty poorly. It was a really weird, really run race for her. She was in between wide the whole way around, just never really had a fair shot at it, if you will. But this time coming back out for Miguel, feel like that last race at Woodbine, obviously they have that little weird turf course as well. Maybe a little bit of a prep to get her back into shape to run back at Kentucky Downs. So I definitely want every bit of her if you're playing underneath exactas and trifectas. Noah, thank you very much. I definitely wanted to talk about that horse, so I appreciate you calling me out on my BS. I'm going 6-4-10. Pat's going 6-10-4. Noah's going 11-6-2. Guys, we'll finally move on to the 9th race, the Kentucky Turf Sprint Stakes. It is another field of 12, but a lukewarm favorite in this race with the number 2 Howard Wolowitz, Irad Ortiz, Jose D'Angelo at 7-2 for this very talented colt. Second choice is the number 6 Kadem. It's a horse it's a 9-year-old coming over from England. Frankie Dettori hops aboard for Charlie Hills, 4-1 on the morning line. And your third choice is a longtime stand of the turf sprint division, who we haven't seen really in a long time. The number 7, Arrest Me Red, who, Pat, you are going with on top. No, you haven't said. I have in third. Very base picks, by the way, gentlemen.
I thought I was going to be a little out of the beaten path there. Damn.
Very based picks, gentlemen. We all have the same top 3 between the Euro, Howard Wolowitz, and Arrest Me Red. But Noah and I both have the morning line favorite, Pat. So you get to tell us why we're wrong. Again, Arrest Me Red's been a horse that's been around for a long time. He's now 7 years old. However, he has run very well over the Kentucky Downs course before And this is a horse I just thought was frankly just kind of done. Like he hasn't really run up to his snuff that he did before. However, that last race in the Mighty Bow might have turned some heads on this horse again.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was a little worried about when I was going through his PPs and looking at some stuff that he made, being 7 may have started to just fizzle out a little bit. But I honestly think this horse is ready for a big one. Gets a little bit of a layoff, running in the beginning of June. Didn't run too bad in that spot. Just kind of similar to some of his races where he finishes in second, just losing by a neck or a head in there. And Ward is obviously very good. Off the layoff, off this time of a layoff, and that's why I just think this horse, time form wise, fits right in there. Is as tactical as they get. And obviously, like we like to talk about, the history at Kentucky Downs, has it and has shown to like it. So I don't see why, why this horse can't, be right there. I don't know what you guys think if this horse, is just more of an underneath play, but I think Arrest Me Red stands a big shot in this spot.
I mean, I completely agree with you again, Noah. Really, this is a horse that I just kind of never paid attention to again. But that last time out really actually ran a very nice race. You could argue that, there's not really a whole lot in there. Run Carson's a nice horse. For Kelsey, running hasn't really gotten back to what he ran in the 3-year-old year. However, still, it was a very nice race in there and has run and won over the 6.5 Kentucky Downs before. So even though the best races have been shorter as of recent, I don't think that's necessarily a complete way to throw her out. I'll take a drink for that.
I feel like the Churchill Turf this spring was really, really fast. I mean, we saw some pretty quick times, and it was typically fairly speed favoring from what I remember. And Joe Shiesty that day went wire to wire.
Yep.
And I thought Arrest Me Red was running really late and really good, just to not quite get there as the 5-2 favorite. But he's just been a super honest horse, and I think he's probably been in Kentucky longer than I have. So I think I got to respect him a little bit. I know I had him up in New York for a little bit for his tenured career, I'd say. But it's just super honest horse, hard knocking. And I think if you're playing the sequence, you got to have him on some tickets for sure.
I completely agree with you in terms of a horse. Like I said, I've never really been on, at least over the past, year and a half now. But again, might be at least worth a look in your exactas and tries, if not on top for your horizontals. Noah, we're going with Howard Wolowitz, and this is a horse that was running absolutely huge last year at Kentucky Downs, winning a grade 1 out here. That not running the best, but also not running the worst in the Breeders' Cup. Then came back after that at Turfway, ran a 101, then went to Saudi. Didn't run well in Saudi, has gotten a break, but those workouts signal that this horse is probably really ready to go.
Kyle, is there any way we get 7-2 in this race?
No. No is your answer to the question.
I thought he was going to be like 9-5 on the morning line. When I saw 7-2, I about jumped out of my seat. His Franklin Simms last year here at Kentucky Downs was very, very good. He was a favorite that day. Obviously, they were prepping him for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. I don't know if you guys actually remember, because we were paying attention with everybody in the group to the BCBC and betting pools and all that stuff. There was a really sneaky exacta pool where somebody had really hit the who's the horse I just mentioned that backed up? Cogburn over this horse. And that exacta was like really, really low.
I do remember that, actually.
There was some sneaky money on him that day, and he got completely wiped out on the turn and actually came back and ran pretty valiant. I mean, he only lost by 3. He could have been completely out of it. I mean, he could have lost by 10 or 12, but he ran well, and it just has me thinking that the connections about 10 seconds after that race were thinking that we want to get back to this spot. So I think they're using this to probably springboard him there. But the problem is I think they have to win this race to be able to be eligible for that. So they went to Saudi. Obviously, he's a talented horse, so they took a shot with him there. Didn't work out, but he's been off for a long time, giving him a good break. Seems like they're using this to springboard him to try again in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And like you said, Kyle, his works in the morning are very, very good. I'm going to be playing a lot of my bankroll on him on Saturday. I'll just put it at that.
No, look, man, we love the Matt Miller type play. You got to find one. And if this is your one, man, like I said, I would not fault you one bit. If he's as ready as his work tab denotes, 46-3, 46-4, and 101 going. I
wonder what
5.
that clocker report would say.
I would love to see a good clocker report, but you'd have to imagine this horse is ready. And D'Angelo has this horse in a very good spot and on a track where he's run very valiantly before. So I'm in a complete agreement, Noah. 7-2 would be an unbelievable Christmas present early. However, I don't think we're getting that, guys. Last horse I want to talk about here, and then I'll bring something in from the chat, is Kadem. Charlie Hills is shipping this one back from Goodwood, now back over to here. Hasn't really run that well over in Great Britain this year off the layoff, now 9 years old. That would be my only reservation about this horse. But came over for the turf sprint last year at Kentucky Downs, and for Kentucky Downs last, like I mentioned, it was very, very speedy. It was very firm, very speedy. 21-4, 44 flat is a blue denoted pace figure, and still was almost only lost by 3 1/4 to Cogburn last year, who was absolutely just lighting up everything. If he gets back to this Pat, he can absolutely run good. It's just a matter of, again, coming off that layoff at 9. He hasn't exactly been the best.
Yeah, right. And it's like you want to say that he's just 9 years old. He's probably just not there anymore, which is probably true. But you look at him coming into, into the race at Kentucky Downs last year, and was in the same form, right? And so I don't know. That's why I'm kind of going to hope this horse just appreciates kind of this class and maybe this track a little bit. I don't know. Obviously, you're not going to ship this horse across if it doesn't have a chance. So I believe, this horse will be there. We'll be closing into what, obviously with the 2, it's going to be somewhat fast of a pace.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing for this horse right now, is that this horse needs some pace to run into. In all the races out in Great Britain, he's actually been towards the front and towards the back, but obviously he's pretty much a back marker. And if the pace does heat up, I wouldn't be surprised to see Frankie coming late on this horse.
Pat brings up a funny point, because you could even make an argument that he's coming into this race better than he was last year based off. I mean, I know he ran the 118, but 84 and 87. I mean, I'm no math genius. I can realize that those are lower than the 92 and a 93. So I'm a little interested in him, but I'm mainly going through the 2. I think we're kind of giving short shrift to some other runners, even though we've got 267. I don't really think it's that easy of a race. I mean, I looked at the 10 Pipsy. Yep. I didn't really know what to do with her, because she's facing the boys, but clearly the connections don't think that she can go 6.5, so they're going to run her at 6. No Balls I looked at, he's been a little disappointing as the favorite in his last 2. And then I thought you could make some cases for some others. So I really don't think it's as easy as 267, but here we are.
I was say, obviously we think so, but yeah, I do agree with you completely. Ed Burke only brings up the 1 horse. Implementation is literally the primo Saffy runner that he always likes to run at Kentucky Downs, and somehow they continue to win at this type of configuration that he puts dirt horses in for these turf races. But last year, this horse ran very well. He said 1 horse, 2 for 2 horses for courses is absolutely true. And you're getting a price to figure out. But again, if he's running up against horses like Howard Wolowitz, who this is number 1, premium, probably turf sprinter, if he runs back to his races last year, it's just a matter. That is the question, right? Will Howard Wolowitz return? If he doesn't, Implementation is definitely one of those horses that's going to be a good price that could be running late. And I feel like, again, I agree with you. We're giving a lot of short trip to others in here. However, we do, of course, have to keep moving, as I don't think it's exactly as easy as 267 in a 6 furlong turf sprint at Kentucky Downs, but you're such a loser.
Pat, have you heard of that meme, the 6'7" meme?
I've heard of it, yes.
Have you, Grandpa?
I have, yes. See, this guy's questioning me on it's unbelievable. This is how they treat me.
Our consensus was that you weren't, you're not that digital of a native in terms of keeping up with trends,
I'm not, but I have heard of that.
All right. Enough. We got to move on. We're already behind the 8 ball here, coming into the 10th race, or the 4th race we're going to talk about. But in the Kentucky Turf Sprint, I'm going 267. Pat's going 726. Noah's going 276. Guys, moving on to the featured race on the entire card. It's the Nashville Derby, a grade 3, yet worth way more money than all the rest of them today. It's $3.5 million going a mile and 5/16 on the turf for 3-year-olds only, of course, being the Nashville Derby. Draws another full field of 12, with the morning line favorite being all the way to the outside. The European shipper, the number 12, Wimbledon Hawkeye, Frankie Dettori, picks up the mount 7-2 on the morning line. Test score is your second choice. Very consistent colt for Manny Franco, Grand Motion, 4-1 on the morning line. Your third choice is the Derby runner Sandman, Jose Ortiz, Mark Cassie at 5-1. Bringing up our picks on the screen right now. That is what I'm talking about, gentlemen. Very based. And if we get said this horse, Noah, if we get 7-2 on this horse, I would actually think you might in this race. And I want every single bit of that 7-2. But Pat, I'll let you talk first. Noah, you can feel free to talk. Sorry, no, Pat, you went first last time. Noah, I'll let you talk first. Pat, feel free to add anything. This is a Euro shipping over, running at Goodwood and Newmarket the last 2 times out, running both at a 1.5 miles, and just missing group wins in both of his last 2.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where I feel like he probably should take some money, and if he does take some money, it's probably a very good sign. But even if he does, I feel like I'd probably still be willing to bet him, just because I think the company that he's faced is just a lot better than what he's facing on Saturday. I mean, he was only 2 lengths behind El Cordobas, as I mentioned him earlier. You see Field of Gold, who I can't remember if he won the King George at Ascot, or he ran a big race at Ascot and beat some pretty good horses during that little meet that they had. So it was just mostly a class play for me. I guess the worry would be the outside post and how Dettori could kind of work it out from there. But Pat, I think we're kind of in lockstep. He feels like the horse to beat in here, right?
Yeah, for sure. Doesn't mind going left-handed, seeing those couple races that he's done doing that. I thought visually he's just very tactical. I mean, the only question maybe is the outside draw, if that concerns you guys. It doesn't really concern me. I don't know if this horse is as much as a single getting the outside draw, but this is one of my more, I'm keying in on this horse in a couple wagers. I just think this horse kind of stands above him. And pretty much how I'm looking at it is obviously I have test score in second. You do too, Kyle. I think test score is kind of the competition, and test score, just looking at, his PPs, he hasn't, really done anything, beaten anybody of the caliber that, Wimbledon Hawkeyes run against. So that's kind of just why I'm just more keyed in on the 12 in here, and hoping that, all others take money, and, we get that Sandman TikTok money. I'm keeping up on my stuff. See, there you go.
Yeah, TikTok, big TikTok guy from Pat. Obviously, Noah, you mentioned El Cordobes, how he ran super well to win the Sword Dancer at Saratoga. And if you guys know, that Prince of Wales is against older horses. Obviously, El Cordobes is in that realm of, I think he's 4, if I remember correctly. So he ran super good, beat every other horse but the Sword Dancer winner in that race of older horses. And that was on the good to firm going at Newmarket. Then last time out, returned, and he got a terrible bob that last time out. I mean, realistically, he was ahead every step of the way from like the 250-meter mark to the end, and just lost on the wire to Merchant. So I don't give any short trip to those runs. And you're actually getting a little bit of a cutback in this race from the 1.5 miles to that 1 mile and 5/16 running that he actually ran back in York and the Group 2 Dante. I completely agree with you guys. The company that this horse is captain, he's run super well. And like I said, he was ahead the whole way on that last race, except right at the wire. So hitting this horse at a little bit of a cutback off that last race, I want every single bit of the number 12 Wimbledon Hawkeye. You kind of mentioned test score a little bit. Noah, I'll touch on him, and then we can move on to other horses, that because I don't want to give anyone short trip in a $3.5 million grade 3. Test score is a horse that I've been on a lot. I know Jackson hates when this horse comes up every single time, going back all the way to last year at Del Mar. But I loved in the Transylvania. I loved this horse in the American Turf. I'm going to try and probably beat Zulu Kingdom to the day I die. I liked him in the Belmont Derby a lot, and I actually liked him last time. I just can find more things to like about the 12 Wimbledon Hawkeye over test score, but test score I think is as talented as they come in the 3-year-old turf division, and he's going to be the one true competition to this horse. But I do agree with you, Pat. If you're just comparing running lines, I think definitely the award goes to number 12, Wimbledon Hawkeye. We all have the number 6 Simulate in here, and I wanted him. He was 8-1 on the morning line last time out. I knew we weren't getting that, but he went all the way down to favoritism on Million Day over at Colonial, and I really wanted. He ran a winning race last time, Noah, and it's just a matter of Giacoso came up on the inside to my dismay and to the boss man's delight in the gazebo at Saratoga. But I think he's very talented. Of course, the Kentucky Downs, Hills and Valleys is the question mark, but Kitten's Joy, War Front Mare, distance should be no problem at all for a horse stretching out to 1 mile and 5/16.
Yeah, it was kind of the precursor to what Alvarado was about to do in the Million, because he kind of made the same exact move with Fort Washington and got the job done, fortunately. But I mean, he was wide around that far turn in an already wide course at Colonial Downs. I mean, that's about as wide as a turf course turns as you're going to get in North America. And in two-back, I mean, I think that's why everybody liked him. I mean, two-back, he blew the doors off that field, kind of came out of nowhere, but obviously, came back and ran super well. I know the buyer kind of decreased, but the time form's right there with it. So you should expect another improvement. I feel like he's going to be the wise guy horse to probably try and beat the 12, and 10-1. I don't think you're getting anywhere close to that. I'm thinking more like 5.
I was thinking 6, so I completely do agree with you on that. It's going to be another replication of last time out where he dropped 6 points by the time the race goes off. But and I think the buyer's lower, but it was also a slower pace on that Colonial turf. So, the buyer's figures, of course, only denoted on the end time. For those that don't know, if you go to time form, he actually got a pretty decent number in a 113. The only horse that actually has him beat on the 113 on the turf is Test Score, who ran that 116 last time out in the Saratoga Derby and matched the 113 in the Belmont Derby. So definitely one to at least keep in mind. I think one you have to use, but I think will be the wise guy horse. I agree, Noah, and will be less than what I think he might deserve a little bit come post time in a race where he's basically trying, many things for the first time. Guys, let's talk about the Derby runner and Sandman. And I understand, there's going to be a lot of money on this horse, as there always is on these comeback Derby runners, even though it's on the turf. A lot of the money in from a lot of the younger crowd and stuff like that. But if you go to the dam side, Pat, Sandman, obviously you have here by Distorted Music, but you also have a very talented Chris Block runner for Lothenbach, and she can't sing. And I remember this horse running all the time on both turf and dirt, did both very well. And she's a stakes winner on dirt, a graded stakes in the money on both turf and dirt. So she's definitely, the turf breeding could be there based on the siblings. But again, are you willing to find that out at what's going to be, probably second or third, or probably third choice in this race?
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get good odds. You're going to get a ton of horrible money in there. And I don't know, guys. His running style is just not for me. He just doesn't seem to kick on late. Like I know obviously the Arkansas Derby, everybody, you see the glamour of that spot, running into a wicked fast
How many
pace.
times do we hear about the Arkansas Derby in this group?
Yeah, go to bed and my ears are ringing from that video. But no, listen, I honestly, I it's funny. I was looking through this race and I would honestly take a wager on Burnham Square finishing ahead of Sandman. I think there's more for Burnham Square. I think, there's more breeding to the turf with Burnham Square. I know that Haskell was awful, but I do think, go maybe stretching a little bit further. I don't see why this horse, can't run halfway decent on the turf. I don't know what you guys think of Burnham Square, but I just looking through some things. Maybe they were pointing this horse to this spot, going to the Haskell and then thinking, what, let's run in the second most expensive race other than the Breeders' Cup turf in America, right?
Which is crazy to say for that matter. But look, I agree with you. It did, but for me, especially these Derby horses, again, you can argue that they're probably just coming here for the money.
Yeah.
They Burnham Square's been working over on the poly track, and Sandman's actually had some pretty decent turf works on the Oklahoma track, running 59-3 back on July 20th. But these horses are going to take a whole lot of money, and the fact that I'm not really getting paid to find out over horses like the 12 and test score for that matter, who are just going to be a couple points less than these horses, I'd be much willing to take a shot by losing $2 to my one, betting a horse that's actually tried and true on the turf rather than a Derby horse who might just be trying it realistically for the money. And Noah, you have another one of those in Hill Road for Chad Brown. Chad Brown doesn't really run a whole lot of horses out here at Kentucky Downs, so that could be something to take in mind. Has worked on the turf, and funny enough, actually was a turf runner out in Ireland when they probably private purchased this horse and brought him onto the Derby trail.
Yeah, back to the 5 and 8. I really don't know what to do with either of those. I mean, to me, it kind of seems like the connections also don't really know what to do. I know they tried blinkers with Sandman last time. He was awful. And then the bumper cars that they had in the Preakness, I mean, he was kind of awful that day too. I mean, he got the perfect setup in there. I guess if a third can be disappointing, that's what it was. And then I think I'd probably prefer Burnham Square because I think he's a little more bred for it. But I got Hill Road in third just because I think he could be a little dismissed in this race. I know the 5 and the 8 will probably take some attention because they ran in the Derby and whatever. I was kind of hoping that Hill Road would have ran in the Travers because I've always thought he was a little interesting just kind of as an underneath horse. But, maybe he was supposed to be on the turf all along. Obviously, he's worked well on it. He started his career, like you said, Kyle. And like I said, Chad doesn't really run a whole lot of horses here. But maybe it's just a case of the 5 and the 8 where if you're going to try a turf, why the hell wouldn't you try it for $3.5 million?
I mean, that's exactly what that's exactly what I'm saying. But if Hill Road wins this race, I would not be surprised whatsoever in terms of you're getting a Chad Brown runner at somewhere in the middling prices. And if I lose to that, I'm definitely going to be upset. But the Nashville Derby is a very, very fun iteration. You have a couple horses that Charlie loves, King of Ashes, Tomasello. Tistastic is another one of those runners that's trying the turf. Hasn't run good in either of his 2 starts. However, has won back-to-back times at Kentucky Downs and won the Juvenile Mile last year for $1 million. So definitely one to keep in mind as well. And Final Gambit's that other type of Derby runner that has run to the turf, has run a little bit better than a couple of the others in here, but you're getting, again, he's going to need pace to run into as he always does. And I don't know if this is going to be the time for that. And of course, that wraps up the field with Wimbledon Hawkeye. But National Derby, guys, again, it's one of those that we all have the same exact horses, and I think it could be, but there's so many unknowns that it might just not be as easy as what we have on the screen. In race number 10, the National Derby, I'm going 12-2-6. Pat's going 12-2-6 as well, very based, and Noah's going 12-6-1. Guys, if you are enjoying the show, please go down below the video player, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. Again, we do this every single Wednesday and Thursday here on the HHH Racing Podcast. So if you're going to be betting all the way up until the Breeders' Cup, please hit that subscribe button for us. We would greatly appreciate it. And hit that notification bell so you never miss a race or podcast, coming out of the HHH Racing Podcast. Guys, let's move on to the last race. And we've taken a while for this show. However, there's 12 horses in every race, and there's a lot of these races where a lot of them have a shot. So, it's kind of that point where I feel like we need to take our time, especially at Kentucky Downs with these types of runners. Guys, race number 11 is the Ladies Turf Stakes. $2 million again, going a mile on the turf. The turf draws a field of 11. And Noah, my friend, that is very based right there. Number 2, Special Juan. Noah and I are both going at 7-2. Pat, you're going with the number 7, Sacred Wish, at 8-1. And Pat, I know this is one you tried to chase a couple times in the past. And obviously, if you're going to catch her at 8-1, this would be a fantastic time to do it.
Yeah. You're right, Kyle. I don't know. She's just, you obviously can't trust her too much, but she runs her race, and she does deal with a lot of trouble more times than not, to no fault of her own. She has she has trouble breaking at the start, but when she's good, she's very good. And I feel like, the way she is tactics wise, she's going to have to sit off of it because this should be pretty quick in here. Yeah, in the matchmaker at Monmouth, she does not want to go that distance, but she still ran huge in there. And then obviously two back on May 3rd, in that the Distaff Turf Mile. I mean, she just completely the start was awful. She just didn't stand a chance. So now she's here. She's 8-1. Obviously, the competition, it's fairly, what she's pretty much been facing. So I don't know. I'm going to take another chance with her. She's, like I said, the mile should be fine. Has done it before on this turf. Came in second in this, in a race here. So I don't know what you guys think of her if she doesn't have a shot in here, but I'll give her one more stand.
No, I think that's fine. 8-1's a good price to take a shot on her. How about Walkathon? That's a horse. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. I love when I can find that type of little tidbit. No, Sacred Wish absolutely has a chance in this race. I thought Pat last time, I mean, like I said, that isn't the distance she likes to go, but I thought last time she should have won that race for sure. And if she's going to be, again, 8-1's a good price, but I don't know if she might not be the same horse she was last year. And if she's not, I don't know if it's good enough to win this race. But again, you're going to get a good chance to find out. And she's done it well on the turf before here at Kentucky Downs. So you'll definitely have a good chance. Noah, I'm very based, my friend. I'm so glad you have this horse. I love this horse in this race. I have been waiting for this horse to come back. The Just a Game, again, yielding course, very weird, but she won on this turf course before. And that Honey Fox, I keep going back to it. I know she got a really nice setup in there, but I've always thought that Special One was going to be something special, no pun intended. And the fact that she ran a 96 last time, she looks super poised to run a big one here, second off that little bit of a layoff.
It's pretty crazy that we ended up with the exact same three, because I looked at this race for probably at least 15 minutes, maybe close to 20. And I typically don't like to land on favorites in a race like this, but it feels appropriate just because the nature of this race is pretty difficult. Like anyone in this race that you like, you're going to get a decent number on, including the 7, who I'm going to be using because I'm going to be about 7 or 8 deep in this race because I think it's pretty much impossible. But Special One will be the tepid top pick. I'm not as confident as you are, Kyle, but I do like the enthusiasm. Just getting better and better with every start here in the U.S. And Walsh has kind of spaced her races out pretty uniquely to a point where it seems like it's worked out well for her. Sometimes these fillies and nares kind of get into a rhythm and they get really good. But with some of the breaks in her races, it seems like she's still gotten better. And you can kind of see that by the way that she runs visually and even the numbers. So I think she's the horse to beat here, a pretty good bet at 7-2. I think if you're going to take a shot with anyone, I think she's one that you could probably trust. And you can make an argument that the firmer the course, the better she's going to be on it.
And that's my whole point, is that Chris Couples, I didn't put it up on the screen. He said they haven't gotten, I'm sure you can attest to this, no, they haven't gotten a lick of rain in the last couple of weeks. So the firmer the course, the better for her. And if she's going to sit off what seems to be a pretty decent pace in here based on the time form, you can see right there, Special One, your number 2, is actually sitting right off. I would love her to sit first flight or somewhere mid-pack. And if she gets a big run with that long Kentucky down stretch that she's won on before, 7-2. And I think that price will stay just based on how open this race is, as Noah mentioned. I really, really like her in this spot. And there's other horses I've liked before that I'm pretty against in a spot like this. Noah, you and I both have, again, we have the same top 3. So why don't we finish off, and I'll let Pat finish off. We have the 2 Euros in second and third. Lady Isles, I think is how you say that. For De Vries, who's coming over here, and Frankie Dettori hops on the number 3 Cheshire Dancer, coming out of Ascot, a Group 3 winner last time out. And the number 6 was the German 1,000 Guineas winner. So, she's absolutely going to be live in this race. It's just a matter of, can she put it together first time here in the States?
Yeah, I thought those two were pretty inseparable. I feel like if you're going to use one, you probably got to use the other, right? I think the things that the 6 has got going for her, this is kind of low profile connections in terms of some Middle East connections that are coming out to the States here. And Cinderella's Dream came over from over here in the States and ended up winning that Group 1. But her win in the 1,000 guineas, like you said, was good, and there's nothing wrong with that. And she's got improving time forms. It'll be interesting to see how those time forms relate to some of the time forms and buyers that we have over here, and how that classes up. And the same thing with the 3. I mean, she's got pretty similar numbers. Her last race was even better when she was a 22-1 winner in the Group 3 Valiant. She comes over with a pretty decent resume as well. And I mean, if one of those 2 won, I wouldn't be shocked. And that's why I got both of them on the ticket.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that's going to be the one thing. We'll see how much money they take, because if they do, like, especially this 6, if this 6 takes a lot of money, being the German 1,000 guineas winner and everything else, those are German connections. Andreas Roller is actually pretty good out in Germany. I'd be pretty scared, but I think Special One has the talent to be able to pop up. And look, and Howard just said monster in Poland last year. Didn't even know there was a track there out in Warsaw. She ran huge. And like I said, coming back to win the Guineas, then running in the Falmouth, you know that they have high hopes for her. Now bringing her over to Kentucky Downs, trying to get a piece of that ludicrous money that they have over here, I don't think is definitely out of the question. So if she takes money, I'd be a little bit scared with my pick in number 2, Special One. However, I think she, again, has the talent as a lightly raced 5-year-old. Pat, we'll bring up the rear here with you. Number 10, Pin Up Betty in 2nd, and the number 2, Special One in 3rd. I know we hit on it a lot, but anything you want to add before we move on to best bets?
Yeah, I'll touch on Pin Up Betty a little bit before we go to best bets. Listen, her 4 wins have obviously, it's been Sayas has been on a board, and that's I think a positive in here. And I just think, as she's turned 4 years old, she's just gotten better. And I can't knock her last 2 races at all. Facing decent competition there, not what she's going to face. But time for why she fits right in there. Another one I have from coming off the pace. So it's a little bit of a theme. I think I'm going to like to take a horse from out of it in here, and Pin Up Betty's going to have to be one. And I'm going to try to catch a horse at a price in this spot. I know you guys both like Special One. I'll have Special One. She's, I know you guys have been kind of chasing her and waiting for her to come back. So it's going to be interesting to see, how she's bet. But this was a fun sequence and a good final race.
And this, as much as we like to talk, crap on how Kentucky Downs can produce some really weird stuff, it's always fantastic sequences, because there's always going to be full fields of horses in here. I'm actually surprised that we haven't. I know it's 2 and a 16th, but I'm surprised that race only has 8 horses in there for $1 million. And with the rest of them being 2 million and above, you always know you're going to get a ton of horses in these races. And to round out not the pick 5, the 5th race of the pick 6, but the last of the races we're covering, I'm going 2-6-3. Pat's going 7-10-2. Noah's also going 2-6-3. Pat, leading off with you for best bets here, starting in race number 9, and even a bet you can play as a pick 3, double 2-7 with 12, and that is going from race number 9, the turf sprint, going with the number 2, Howard Wallowitz, and the number 7, Arrest Me Red, into singling the number 12. That's the Euro in the Nashville Derby that we all like. Number 12, Wimbledon Hawkeye, and then race number 11, a win on the number 7, Sacred Wish.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these doubles will be paying. As I will probably have 2 odds-on favorite in my double with the 2 and the 12 in there. But like I said, I'm going to be keen in on the 12 in most of my bets. And I will hopefully have a double alive into Sacred Wish at some point. But yeah, I'm going to give Sacred Wish a chance. I'm going to key Sacred Wish on the win end and underneath. I want to get her. I want to get Sacred Wish back in the winner's circle. And of course, Katie, I win best bets. I know nobody's gone yet, but I win best bets, and I always appreciate that every week.
Always winner of the best bets. Noah, again, thanks so much, man, for hopping on to cover, of course, for Charlie, who's out at law school. Noah, your 2 best bets: race number 7, a win on the number 1, Goldeneye. That's the 10-1 morning line horse in there. And he typed this, folks. I promise I didn't do that. Race number 9, win a lot on the number 2, Howard Wallowitz. Again, you mentioned a lot of your bankrolls going to that horse there.
Yeah, and you could tell I typed it because I forgot to capitalize a lot. So that was a co-host fail on my part. Race 7, Goldeneye is probably like my long shot play of the day, or maybe price play. just because I think the 7 is going to be a little too low to play. I will have some 7-1 savers, but I'll be playing Golden Eye to win, hopefully getting close to that 10-1. And then race 9, I like Howard Wallets a lot, and I know you do, Kyle. Just going to be shoving my chips into the middle of the pot in race 9, and I'm glad Pat's got the 2 in his double, because I got to be tailing Pat in these shows.
Yeah, that's the number one rule, man. That's the way we follow around here. Guys, my 2 best bets, it's basically just a double, but I did want to put, because if one does lose, I'll definitely be putting a win bet on the other. Double 12-2 starting in race number 10, win on number 12, Wimbledon Hawkeye, and race number 11, a win on number 2, Special One. If Special One, if the 6 does end up getting bet on the probable on the doubles, I'll probably play a double 12-6 as well, just in case. But I really think the number 12 Wimbledon Hawkeye has a big shot to win that race, now cutting back to the 1 5/16 distance, and been waiting a lot for Special One. Second time off the little bit of a 3-month layoff, I think should be ripe and prime for her to run a very, very good race. The only other horse I'd probably give a mention to bet on the Kentucky Downs card would be the number 7 Flatten the Curve in race number 7. 8-5 would be fine. Anything below that, I'm not going to bet that. But again, I wanted to at least give it out just in case that horse does end up being the price that we don't think he will be in that race, Noah. But just in case, if he does, my money will be going there. And I just want to say thank you all so much for watching this edition of Bettin N Boozin on the HHH Racing Podcast. A ton of support tonight. I see a bunch of you in the chat. Felipe Hernandez playing Asinaboa, but took a break to watch us. Felipe, my friend, thanks so much for joining the show. At the end, Ed Burke, thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you all for watching. It's been, again, Kentucky Downs is absolutely ludicrous. We'll try to break it down as much as we can, but to anyone that's going to be there next weekend, that would be September 4th. That weekend, Noah and I would love to see you guys out there. So again, please feel free to DM me on Twitter at APRoscoeK, and we can definitely work something out. For my co-host, Patrick Kunsel, and host of Pacific Horseplayers, which check that out tomorrow at 9:30 p.m. Eastern for the Pacific Classic card.
Big
Noah
show.
Maher, and I've been your host, Kyle Roscoe, for episode 145 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering the $10.5 million in stakes on Kentucky Downs Saturday, August 30th. Until the next time, everyone, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.